One. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's Mindful Morning with Dr. Matt. And I am especially excited to bring on this week's special guest, Bryan Kuhn, a local artist, somebody who I've known for many years. We were in grammar school together, high school together. We also even filmed an episode or two episodes together on mental health matters, Bolingbrook Community Television several years ago. And I'm so excited to have Bryan back because there have been so many different things that have gone on in both of our lives in terms of our work. Both of us with mental health, Bryan with everything he's doing with the music, always putting out different videos, always putting out new albums, new songs. Lyrics are absolutely amazing, doing the open mic nights and so on. Is Bryan, I really admire everything that you've been doing and the way that you've been able to tie in mental health with music, and sharing your story and sharing your experiences with other people as you've had. So without
Mhm.
further ado, Bryan, it's a pleasure having you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Matt. I think it was 4 years ago we did that show.
Yeah, it was
I think
quite
that's
a
how long
while
it's been.
ago. It
Yeah,
has been.
a
Yeah. How
lot has
things
definitely
been?
changed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, where do I begin? Um, no, yeah. So I write music about mental health, depression, anxiety. I've had my entire life, and there are things I battle every day. And so what I do is try to use music as a conduit to staying healthy mentally, and also to help other people with their own mental health issues and shedding a light on the things that are out there that people don't like to talk about usually, and to be okay with that. And erasing stigmas is a big phrase of mine. So this show is great. I appreciate everything you're doing as well.
Oh, absolutely. And, that was one of the things that, it continued to really grasp my attention with you. Beyond being somebody I've known for, many years, we, occasionally have seen each other and so on, and, hear your music. And I remember the last time that we ended up connecting, it was more so, about, okay, we've got a local artist, Bryan's an old friend of mine. It'd be really great to be able to talk about mental health and music, but since that point, from that point onward, it feels as though your music has been about depression. It has been about anxiety. It has been about instilling hope in other people, while really trying to destigmatize mental health and addictive disorders. And, as they say with a field like mental health, and well, for anything else in general, usually there is a story. There's some type of background that made this an interest for you. And I'm wondering, would you be willing to share your story and what attracted you to mental health?
Oh yeah, of course. So like I said, I've had depression my entire life, but I didn't know what it was until I got out of college. It's when I started going to therapy and seeing a doctor about it. Um, and since then, I've been trying to know as much as I can because that's the only way that you can combat it. So, and music, I started playing music about 2003, started writing my own songs around 2010. And since then, I've written, I think, over 250 songs, something like that. Um, and it's a form of therapy for me, to play music, to write music, to share music with other people, um, and to perform. It's If I wasn't doing it, I wouldn't be doing good things. I'd be in bed like I have been in the past, being depressed, and you know, um, there were times in the past where I'd be in bed for a week straight and couldn't see the light of day, and that was before I really started focusing my attention on my mental health and how music intersects with that. So I've been doing that for uh, I would say about 10 years now. I started going to the open mic scene in this area about 4 years ago. And since then, it's just kind of grown from there. I've continued to connect with people, to meet new people, play with other musicians. And a lot of musicians understand this stuff. A lot of people go to music because of this stuff. You know what I mean? So, yeah, my whole story revolves around that. And I'm trying to bring that story out to other people to tell them that their story is okay. It's all right if you have things in your past or depression, anxiety, or things in your present. Um, it's okay to talk about them. And the way that I connect with people, the way I talk about it is through music. So on a daily basis, I'm either recording, I'm writing, working on vocals. I'm always doing something musically when I'm not at work, and pretty much nonstop. And it's been gaining momentum over the past year or so. I've been building up relationships and kind of building up a presence in the local community. And it's the greatest thing I've ever done because I've met so many great people through it. And it's helped me grow as a musician and grow as a person. And I don't know what I would have done if I didn't start doing this, and so it's something that I need to do. And it's something that I feel like other people don't know that it can help them like that. And so what I try to do is bring it out, make it okay for us to discuss these things, for us to, tell people about what we're feeling and not always worry about the the other things outside of it, and just focusing in on your mental health, because it takes a lot when you have depression and anxiety to stay on, because it's a daily thing. I wake up every day and I have depression. I'm never going to not have depression, but I can combat it with with different coping mechanisms, and music being the main one of that. But so in 2015, I was really sick. I had been abusing Xanax, and I ended up at Alexian Brothers in Hoffman Estates at their mental health program. And that's where I really started to learn about mental illness and start to understand it. Because they have group, anyone who's been in this type of thing, there's group sessions. And I remember the first one I was ever in, I just looked around at all the people that were talking, and I was like, wait, you feel the same way? I didn't know anyone felt this way other than me. I thought I was the only one. And so since then, I've learned coping skills. I was there for a couple of months, and I learned a lot of coping skills then that I still use today. And those are, again, coping skills I want to help other people to get to. And things are really starting to pick up lately, musically and mental health wise. So everything I've done to this point has been getting me ready to do what I'm going to do next.
Absolutely. And that's one of the powers, of group therapy. It's a cathartic experience. Here you can,
Mm-hmm.
connect with other people who have similar shared experiences, and perhaps they're going to be different, and everybody perceives and responds to the world differently. So it'll never be a one-for-one match. But you
Mm-hmm.
ultimately do find out, like you said, a lot of those feelings you have, maybe some of those automatic negative thoughts and otherwise, are ones that
Right.
people experience. But the problem is we get so uncomfortable talking about these types of things because we
Mm-hmm.
worry, okay, is there something wrong with me? Or, is this just me personally? Is this my personality? Will I ever get better? What do other people think of me? And it's just very easy to go down the spiraling path, and this is why that self-awareness piece is ever so important. But you can't become self-aware unless you do the exploration, start
Right.
talking about it. And while it can be very difficult for many people to just reach out and say, hey, Bryan, you know what? I'm struggling with addiction right now. That might be very difficult for people to have that conversation, especially with loved ones. But when we do something creative, we tie it into music, and we tell our story there. Just seems like a bit of a safer space to be able to do it, but also a more creative
Mm-hmm.
space with many healing benefits. Because as you said,
Mm-hmm.
when you're writing your music or you're performing, you're feeling great. You get that rush, the dopamine, the serotonin, and so on. You just
Mm-hmm.
the
Yep.
neurotransmitters are firing on all cylinders, but also just seeing the looks on other people's faces, enjoying the music, they're vibing with it, but also realizing you're connecting. The lyrics that you have, people are listening to them and saying, you know what, wow, I kind of feel like Bryan does sometimes, or like he did sometimes, and wow, I don't feel alone. And as that person starts to feel better and realize what's going on, can connect with somebody else, who connects with somebody else, who connects with somebody
Mm-hmm.
else. And as you said, over the past year, things have really been picking up. And I feel as though the timing is perfect for this, because one of the silver linings with the pandemic, as hard as it's been, obviously COVID-19 was a terrible thing, but it really did open up the conversation about mental health in a lot of ways. And today we see a lot more celebrities, musicians, and so on talking about it, doing videos about it, making songs and so on. So it seems as though everything just aligned accordingly here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one thing I'll mention is that isolation is one of the worst things when dealing with mental health, when you get lost in your own head. And so my goal is to get people out of their own heads and to put the stuff out there, not necessarily into the world, but yeah, I have people come up to me and confide things in me. And that's a great feeling when someone is comfortable to do that. And isolation will tear you down. And I know that from experience. So if you're not focused, if you're only focused on your mental health within your head, then you're set up for failure. You've got to be able to get out of your own head. And so what I'm trying to do is help people get out of their own heads
No, absolutely. Well,
and getting out of my own as well.
no, well, no, I mean,
You know.
it's certainly true. And recently, we're on social media and so on. I'm always
Mm,
seeing your posts and posts of other people's. And there was a really great meme about mental health I saw a couple of weeks ago. It was stating something to the fact of, all of us experience negative thoughts. The difference between
mm,
those with higher subjective well-being than other people are really struggling is that we choose not to listen to them. People are doing well are choosing not to listen to them, but at the same time, it's a much easier said than done type of thing. We really do
mm,
have to be intentional and consistent with that self exploration. We have to be intentional and consistent with utilizing our coping skills. We have to be intentional and consistent with reaching out to people when we need the help. I mean, we're
mm,
interpersonal creatures. And when we isolate ourselves, it's very easy to continue ruminating on those negative thoughts. You don't have anybody to pull you out of those. And
mm,
then when that goes on long enough, you start to internalize it. And that's when you experience that shame and just really the
yeah.
bottom can fall out for lots of people there.
Mm. So yeah, that's my. I guess it's been my mission for a while, to do this, and uh, the amount of people within the local music scene that I've connected with is it's changed my life. I didn't have a support network before. And that's another thing you need when you're dealing with mental illness is a support network. You need other people, again, not isolating, and people that will just listen, not necessarily tell you what to do, but just be there to listen and be a sounding board. And uh, it's rewarding to do that. And one of the biggest issues we have as people who deal with mental illness is trying to think how to put it. Um, the messages we send to ourselves are very key. And so if the messages from your head are negative, then it's going to come out in the rest of your life. Like myself, if I miss work or something because my mental health or something wrong, that's happened a lot in the past. And you have to focus on it. You have to combat it and try to work through it, but also know that it's not going away. You're going to have to deal with it and try to handle it the best you can. And the best way to do that is using coping mechanisms and using a support network of people who really care about you.
What did you said? Just having people to listen, being able to
Mm-hmm.
put it out there. Because again, the longer
Yeah.
we hold on to the negativity, it is something that becomes toxic to our
Mm-hmm.
system. It literally makes us sick. We have that sympathetic nervous system is activated. So we have that release of adrenaline, cortisol, where we're constantly in that fight, flight, or freeze type of states. You feel that anxiety, so
Mm-hmm.
that damages the immune system. You get sicker faster, stay that way longer, and so on. But having that healthy outlet, the expression, if you will, and even when you don't have the perfect thing to say to somebody, just actively listening, be there as support
Right.
can go a really long way. And I think that that's one of the things. I want to take a moment now to speak about this because I feel like this is one of the things that prevents people from having the conversation is we feel as though we have to have a response to everything and people
Yeah.
get uncomfortable, right? Having
Mm-hmm.
these difficult types of conversations and some people who could otherwise, provide solid support to loved ones, are reluctant to do so because, well, I'm not a trained professional. I don't know what to say. But there are even times in counseling sessions. I mean, certainly there are many counselors out there. I'm just one of many, many fish in the sea in that respect. But I've had many times with my clients where they unload something heavy on me and I look them dead in the eyes and say, really, there are no words for that. So let's just hold this
Right.
space together. Let's share this energy here together.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking, feel free to express that. We're going to continue to work from that point. But there are some things where there really are not any words. So coming down to that point of interpersonal connection, listening to other people, really,
It,
that's worth its weight in gold.
so it's like when you have anxiety and someone tells you why you're having an anxiety attack to calm down. Something like that. Like, no, I don't need to hear that. There's nothing,
Mhm. Oh,
I can't
absolutely.
calm down. You know what I mean? So the messages that you get from other people affect you greatly as well. And with depression and anxiety. So the way I describe anxiety for myself is everyone has anxiety, right? But so so let's say most people's, sorry, my phone cut out. Um, lost my train of thought now.
We're talking about anxiety, having, like
Yeah.
having
So
type of
so
anxiety.
let's say your anxiety's at a normal 4 out of a scale of 10. Well, my anxiety starts at a 6. So as that goes up, if we're going through the same thing or similar events, I'm going to be up higher on that anxiety list than you are. And so it's hard to understand that, I think, for people who haven't dealt with it. And it's something that, and this goes for anxiety and depression. You're right. You need to listen. People, you have to listen to the person that's talking. And even if you've never had your own battles, just be there and listen to them. And you don't always have to give them advice on what they should do. And in most of those situations, it's not the time for advice. That's the time for support.
Absolutely. And well, and that's where there's a lot of struggles. People minimize, as you said, oh, just, calm yourself down. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay. This isn't scary and so on. But that's the other part we have to realize too when it comes to anxiety, because it is a natural defense mechanism. We need to have some anxiety to tell us, hey, something's not right. Don't get too
Mm-hmm.
close to the fire. Don't drive 180 miles an hour on the highway. These types of things is naturally there to protect us. But what happens, especially in the society. We have very overactive minds with technology. We want everything right away, instant gratification. We're supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
accessible 24/7. And like now people are rewired really to, we have these constant stimuli that are going on and people get overwhelmed, they get anxious. And, people's experience is going to differ from one individual to the next. So we can't just assume that we know what another person is experiencing. And even if two people, and this is how I really like the way you put it, maybe Matt, you're beginning with a 4 of anxiety, where I'm going to start off as a 6. We have to look at the individual because although we may experience some similar symptoms in terms of the anxiety, the way that we perceive and respond to it's going to be a lot different, from one
Mm-hmm.
person to the next. So it
Yep.
is important that we are supporting one another appropriate. And even if you don't have the words, as I said a few moments ago, just listening, I'm here for you. I'll be available. I'm sorry I don't have the right words for this, but at
Mm-hmm.
least you know that I'm here. And also offering that support instead of having that person come up to you, say, oh, yeah, here, I need this, I need
Right.
this. Because then the person feels even worse. Not only am I struggling with
Mm-hmm.
anxiety right now I have to ask for the support. Hand it over.
Exactly. Yeah. Uh, but I mean, it is hard for, and like anything in life, I think if you haven't gone through it, it's harder to understand it. But like I said, if a family member or a friend that's going through something, you don't have to completely understand it. Sometimes they just need you to be there. And that's in a lot of cases, um, when on the open mic scene, yeah, I think at this point, people have gravitated towards it. They know what I'm about, and they know that they can talk to me without any sort of judgment, without any sort of, all right, this is what you got to do. I'm just there to listen and be that conduit for them, like I said before. And I want to do that on a daily basis, and I'm finally actually doing that. And been pretty crazy, um, to actually be. I've been trying to call myself a mental health advocate for a lot of years, and I definitely know I'm a mental health advocate at this point, which makes me feel, it helps me, and it makes me want to help more people.
Absolutely. Well, and so one of the things I wanted to ask you here, so you've got a way with words. I mean, you're
Thanks.
extremely descriptive, catchy, and so on. So I'm wondering for everybody, as we just established a few moments ago, no two people are going to exactly experience anxiety the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for people, different people manifest differently. The symptoms experience are going to be different from one person to the next, but there are certainly some similarities with this, and that's why it's a
Mm-hmm.
diagnosable condition.
Right.
And another point I wanted to make as well as we were talking about mental health and feeling alone, did you know that roughly about 40% of people at some point in their lifetime, so any given point in their lifetime, will experience a diagnosable mental health condition, whereas about 25% of people on an annual basis experience, a given mental health condition at any time. So, believing that you're alone with this, guess what? If you're in a room, of 100 people, there's probably at least 25 people there are struggling with mental health in some type of way. So I want to make
Mm-hmm.
that clear right now. But
Yep.
the other part too again, with that whole being able to communicate what's going on, what I'm wondering is, can you describe what it feels like in your words and experience to have an anxiety attack? And then can you describe in your words and experience what it feels like when you get that, when you're into flow, you're playing your music and just
Hmm.
all that is shed and and your
Oh yeah,
euphoric sensation. Can you describe both of those for us?
yeah, really night and day. I mean, anxiety. It's been years since I've had an anxiety attack, thankfully, um, but it was I've had three or four of them in my life, and it's a terrifying thing because everything feels like a threat. Everything, it feels like there's no way you can get out of it, that it's never going to end, and it's it's overwhelming is the biggest word I would use. These, like I said, when someone tells you, you need to calm down, like I wish I could calm down in an anxiety attack. It's something you just have to a lot of times let it pass and then try to go back after that and figure out, was there a reason for this? Was it chemical? Is it something that happened in my life or what? And then the flip side of that, playing music and connecting with other people is that really drives me. And the way it feels is it validates a lot of what I'm doing.
Mhm.
And because again, in my head, I've got that negative voice always telling me the negative things, but I'm consciously trying to keep that out of my head, not rather than just ignoring it, trying to find why it happened and is there what I can do to get out of it. So when I play music, that's the way it takes me out of my own stuff, my own issues. And I, when I share songs, and I do it a lot, I share a lot of songs and I record a lot of songs and write a lot of songs. If I could send it to one friend and they listen, that right there, it's an amazing connection for me. And so that's that group atmosphere of being at an open mic where everybody is on the same page. Everybody's there to support each other. It's my favorite thing in the world, really. And the people I've met over the past 4 years, um, a lot of them have changed my life with their support. And like I said before, I've been playing music for a long time, but people are finally it's starting to get out there, and people know what I'm about now because I have enough of a track record, I think. So when I go to an open mic and I see friends there that I see at all the open mics, it's uplifting. And then when you play your original songs with them, there's nothing better than that. When you have friends, other musicians who play your original music with you, and because every time you do it play it with someone else, it's a different there's a different vibe to it. And a lot of my songs, like every time I play them, they're slightly different because it kind of I try to let the other people that are playing show what they can do, and I'm here to support it and be like the canvas and allow them to creatively express themselves. And that feeling, when you can tell everybody on stage is having a good time and enjoying the music you're playing, there's no better feeling for me.
Absolutely. So on that note, then I'm wondering, is there, so no better feeling than, having these types of experiences. I'm wondering, like, what would you say is one of your most memorable moments? Like the one where you're like, oh, yeah, I know this has come together. I'm so proud of
Mm,
this. This is what I've been working toward. Any of those moments
real,
specifically?
um, well, that's interesting because I kind of had one recently. As you know, I had a friend that just passed away recently, and she was her name was Mary, and she was the greatest supporter of me. I would send her songs every day. She would always listen and give great feedback to me and support me. And so, since she's passed away a couple weeks ago, I now am able to see in myself what she always saw in me. And that feeling, to go with all the sadness and the grief and everything, it helps to get through it that way. To know that I am making an impact, and to fully realize that finally, I just wish it didn't have to come the way it did. And she she was a great human being, and if you've been following me on Facebook and Instagram lately, I've been posting a lot of stuff about her and I'll continue to because it's the way I'm getting through the grief is by writing songs, playing cover songs that we bonded over that she liked. And so that there, it just told me, realize the people that are in your life that understand what you're doing, and give yourself that credit. And so I'm just starting to do that now, is to learn to get rid of those negative messages, because I know people, friends, and people following music, it's hitting them in some way. And the support, like I said, is just it's very key. And but again, music is a great thing to get through things like grief. And I wrote a 19-minute song about it the other day, and and yeah, it's been really hard. But I don't know what I would have done without music. I would be in my bed, depressed. I would not be standing here doing this interview right now. And I got a lot of that strength from her support over the past 4 years. And she touched so many musicians' lives. She was active in Milwaukee and here. She was from here and moved to Milwaukee. And I went to an open mic last Sunday in her honor in Wisconsin, and the place was packed. And it didn't surprise me because I know the person she was. And so like that, I don't want to say validation on that, but yeah, it can be tough, but to channel it into music, to channel it into writing, is trying to put a positive spin on something so terrible. And the reason you do it is because it helps. It's not going to make everything better. It's not going to bring it back or anything, but it helps you get through those moments where you're struggling. And when other people then support you, seeing your support for somebody you love, that's just an amazing feeling to make those connections. And for people, like sorry, my phone's out again. So making those connections, what I was trying to say, is integral for me. And now other people seeing the work that I'm doing to honor her memory. I've heard from a lot of her friends and people she knew, and the thing I came up with a couple weeks ago is grief isn't meant to be spent alone, mm-hmm. experienced alone. You need other people to be there with you, and even if they didn't know the person, like again, we're back to supporting somebody who's going through something like that, because you don't, and like we said, you don't have to understand it, but just being there. And a lot of people have been there for me lately, and so that for me has been it's changed my perspective on a lot of things, and I just want to continue on honoring her memory. I'm sure I'll post another song later today about her, and I'm going to continue to do that to get through this grief. And it helps if it's helping other people, like her musical partner. I've been connecting with him a lot, and it's helping him, which is really cool, because nobody knew her better than he did. They lived together, they played music together, and so all the videos I've been doing, the pictures I've been making, I've been sending to him, and he told me it helps. And look, that's all I'm trying to do is I just want to help. And you can't fix any of this. You just want to help.
Oh, absolutely, Bryan. Thank you so much for sharing, everything here. And again, obviously you married with somebody very important to you, somebody very important to the music community. Again, my sincerest condolences. And as you said, people grieve in different ways. And,
Yeah.
sometimes you could see the best of a person while they're in the middle of grieving. And sometimes we see the absolute worst of people when they're in the middle
Right.
of grieving. And,
Mm-hmm.
the one thing that, again and again, I recommend to individuals, whether it's in counseling or people in my personal lives, the best way to honor a person fallen is to carry on their legacy. And I see
Exactly.
so many
Yep.
people who are struggling, and, and we see a lot more. We even have prolonged grief disorder disorder, ever since, traditionally we consider grieving was always a natural process. People
Mm.
do lose loved ones, or even beyond losing
Right.
loved ones, your house, your job, your pets, so on and so forth. Again, we can grieve the loss of anything, but even in today's climate, since COVID and so on, having this prolonged grief type of disorder and so on. But even with that, whether it's something is diagnosable or it is a traditional form of grieving, really the best way to, move forward is to be able to honor the legacy of the individual, who passed
Right.
away. And in doing that
Hmm.
is being the best version of yourself. And I would ask clients all the time, I'm like, what would your fallen loved one want for you? Would they want to see you in a bad space and, giving up on life, giving up on hope, and so on and so forth? Well, no, they want what's best for me. Okay, then how can we fulfill what they wanted for you? How do we carry them
Hmm.
forward? The 19-minute song and video you put together was just, it was remarkable. And, everything that you did, at the open mic, absolutely remarkable. And here you are in a very difficult situation, one in which you could easily go down and spiral down that path, but you're holding strong for somebody who was there and supported you. And this is the way that we keep people's memories going forever. So please do know
Hmm.
that I truly, truly admire you doing that and even being
Thank
here
you.
today talking about this. Absolutely. Well, I know that we're running about short on time here, so I'm wondering, are there any other things that you would suggest to people? How about we start off in the music community, individuals who
Hmm.
are musicians, anything that you would like to impart onto them when it comes to their mental health and music?
Yeah. Come to an open mic. Um, Send me a message. I'll tell you where the open mics you can go that are around there and which ones are good. And because there's a lot of people there that are going through something too, and they understand. And you don't even have to talk to them. Maybe you just get up there and you play a song, or you hear somebody else play a song
Mm.
or say something, and it can you don't know how it's going to hit you, and it could help you. So that would be if you're a musician, even if you're not a musician, if you're just a fan of music, come out to an open mic. And local music is very passionate, you know, and there's a lot to offer within the community. So that would be uh, my first step. Start building that support network. And if you need help building that support network, talk to me, because I can start, helping you to gain that and join in on this, because the community around here is amazing. There's so many talented people, and there's a lot of open mics every week. I probably go to 2 or 3 a week, a little less lately, but uh, yeah, that would be my biggest advice is reach out. Even if we're forgetting the music part of it, just reach out at any time, because anyone who's watching this video now, reach out to me if you need it. If any of this hits you, I always want to talk to people about what's going on with their mental health and how music helps them, or how the support is helping them. So that's the basic. Never hesitate to reach out.
Absolutely. Well, and speaking of reaching out, what's the best means for people who are viewing this or listening to
Yeah.
this to be able to contact you?
So on Facebook, if you check me out, I'm everywhere. I'm on YouTube. I have 650 videos on YouTube, I think now, and uh, so check that out first, and then Facebook. Send me a friend request. Bryan Joseph Kuhn, Kuhn is the last name, and yeah, I'll respond to whoever reaches out, because I know how big of a step that is in someone's life to make that step. It's a big deal. So I'm always here for that, and so you can reach me. I'm relaunching a new band, my old band called Gray Shore Avenue. Um, so that watch out for that coming up, and then yeah, find me on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and hit me up and let's talk. Let's talk about music. Let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about whatever.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you so much for being a guest on the show, and we'll be sure
Mhm.
to, share the contact information with everybody here. And I'm sure there's going to be many who are reaching out to you. Any final concluding thoughts as we say goodbye to everybody?
No, once again I really appreciate it. So yeah, 4 years since we did this, and not to give away any information, but you may see something similar to this in the future. We may have some things in the works. So we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to that and really want to just continue spreading the message. Hey, and you got to start somewhere, even if that's starting small, but
Yep.
continue putting the message out to the world. This is how we continue to destigmatize mental health and addictive disorders, get the
Mhm.
conversation going. Bryan, again, thank you for being a guest on here. I wish you all the best and I look forward to our future opportunities together.
Thanks, Matt. I really appreciate it.
Take care now.